We're wrapping up May, and we take a look at performance, and we saw a rebound. Munis are actually outperforming relative to Treasuries and the 5-year average. What's sort of behind this new outperformance?
So I'll step back and say 2018 really hasn't been a typical year, especially what you'd expect in terms of municipal performance. At one point, we were down almost 160 basis points on the ag. And when you actually look at that 5-year average and you look at month-to-month returns, we've actually, in some cases, been the polar opposite of, again, what you'd expect. January, normally a big up month, we were down quite a bit. February, April, the same thing. May, we did outperform, and I think it was a little bit of a culmination of several factors. We have the Belmont coming up this weekend, so it was a bit of the trifecta. We had rates which actually went lower. So from the middle of May through the end of May, rates went significantly lower. I think 10-year Treasuries peaked at roughly 311, went to 278. We had fairly big supply, which is you'd think would be sometimes a headwind. It wasn't, but demand was very strong. I think it was a bigger realization, the value of municipals, particularly post-tax reform. So I think that confluence of factors led to a very, very strong May.
And then going forward, it's funny, this is the season where we always look at supply and demand technical factors. Supply is usually light, which leads to outperformance, but your note was interesting. You think that maybe that might not be as relevant this summer. Why is that?
I think that's a good point, an important point. Sometimes we all rely too much on the seasonal patterns, and we think that will manifest itself into somewhat predictable returns. But as I mentioned, this year has been very different, and that's why we're being a little bit cautious as we come into this period. Yes, there's $37 billion in net negative supply, which means there's more money being pulled out than are being created in terms of new issuance. That's usually a predictor and a tailwind to good performance. But we think this year there's a couple factors that might actually influence that. One is more institutional selling. The market hasn't been tested in supply, so we're waiting to see what will happen. We're a little bit cautious on the seasonals.